Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And today I'm going to be working on my youngest son's 2005 Honda Civic that's behind me. We've discovered that the left rear strut is leaking, and I've condemned it for that reason, but my son also has a complaint about when he's driving, particularly in cold weather, how he's got sort of a weird noise when going over bumps coming from that area. I suspect that strut is the cause. But if nothing else, we're going to do a how-to remove and replace the rear struts on this 2005 Honda Civic. Stick around. Our journey begins inside the trunk. This car formerly had a system in it, so there was an amp, there was a subwoofer, and all of this got jacked up. Anyway, access to the fasteners for the upper part of the rear struts can be found underneath some carpet back here. In particular, right there. And we are going to remove these two 14mm fasteners. Something to be considered while you work that can give you some more light is to fold down the back seats, and there's releases on either side for both of them, and you're going to need two hands to do this. So long as that center thing isn't locked, you can pull these releases and push the seats down. That'll give you a little more light. I really mean it. I'll just remove those fasteners. And by the way, there is, if you're having trouble getting access, you can remove this plastic cover and get access to this inner one here if you're having difficulty. But I think I'll be able to get it. Now the other side. Here's the lower fastener. There's only one. I'm going to give it a little bit of penetrating oil. Get it started and do the same to the other side. Quick tip, if you're working under a vehicle like this, it's a good idea to wear your safety glasses. I'm going to start by breaking it loose with my wrench. Hopefully breaking it loose. Ooh. Well then, let's give this a try. That was very unfortunate. Broke it clean off. Stuff like this takes an easy job like this and just turns it into just yuck. Before I dive in to deal with that problem, I'm gonna see if we also have a problem over here. I didn't need that light anyway. Well, it's seized inside the bushing, which I'm just overjoyed about. You can see how it's all turning in there now. If I heat it up, the bushing will melt and burn and smell and all that. I need to see if I have a couple of those fasteners. I believe I've found two bolts. One I know will work, one I think will work. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm gonna come in with my Sawzall. I've opened this up. You can see that gap there, maybe, I hope. I've opened this up so I can get in there with the Sawzall blade and cut it. Gonna cut this, cut the other side and get the strut out, and then I'll deal with the bits afterwards. I have to do this to both sides. I'm so excited. Can you tell by the tone of my voice? I think that made it through. There. That broke. I win. So you can easily remove the strut with a Sawzall. Now, the small task of removing the bits. We already know that this one moves, so I think we can get in here and sort of spin it out. This one on this side, I don't know yet. But I'm gonna go grab my ear protection because I got some new ones. Check them out. What? What? Well, that was easy. I'm gonna check to see if this bolt is gonna be too long. Looks that way. Unless I can find a spacer, which I can use temporarily. I think that will work perfectly. Yep, until I can get a proper fastener, I order a new one. Those of you that are regular viewers may notice what this is from the last time I had to break out my Sawzall to get suspension parts apart. That is part of that Moog upper control arm for my Odyssey that I had to trim out. Works as a perfect spacer here. Other side. The key here seems to be frequent blade changes. These are hot, so don't hang on to them long. Or use a pair of pliers. That's the other one. I think a little bit of heat. At least it's easier to get to now. Good thing I got the welder out. A trip to the wire wheel made it all shiny. Can't weld on rusted metal. I also want to clean this surface. The thing of it is it's kind of narrow and tight in here. So I'm going to take one of my cartridge rolls, get up in here and clean this just a little bit. That should suffice. You really don't have to weld this. I'm just going to, hopefully to make my life easier down the road. But to get it located correctly, just gonna put it in this. This is why I clean the other side. I just need a couple of tacks. I don't need to burn the whole thing in, and you need to move for me to do that. Not that it matters, but just to keep it from rusting more. Okay, now that we have the struts out, I probably should have brought this up earlier in the video, and that is your choice of replacement parts. I'm going to be installing these original equipment Honda struts, and these are the struts only. However, you can purchase complete assemblies with the springs and everything. They're all assembled. All you got to do is take them out like what I did here and put them in. Hopefully you don't have to go through what I went through here. Anyway, it would just be a simple task of swapping them out. Because I'm doing these struts, I'm going to be using a spring compressor, and if you do go this route, another possible option if you don't have a good spring compressor, like I have a really good one, is you could take the struts after you remove them to a shop to have them swap out the strut parts. Although I will say that rear springs are not nearly as dangerous as front springs, so if you either rented a spring compressor from a parts store or something like that, you could probably do the same thing as I'm about to do here. Next to my Dancing Elvis is my Brennick spring compressor. This is excellent for compressing struts, in my view. As I said, you can rent a spring compressor from the parts store or something of that nature, but I'm going to be using this today. Starting with penetrating oil would have helped. That's one way to do it. Here's the bits underneath that need to be transferred over. And if you can do this easily, the fluid on the inside of this leaks out, then they're bad. We're gonna have to transfer all of these parts over to the new strut. They just slide off. Should just slide off, but a lot of times that washer gets stuck, so this is how I deal with that. It worked. All that stuff. Before we do the new strut, I'm going to do something real quick. This is something I've just come to do as a common practice with when installing new struts, particularly aftermarket struts. But anyway, if you compress them a couple of times, This is doing what I call priming the strut. So I'll just cycle it a couple of times and that's all I need to do. But if I don't do this, sometimes this causes a noise. Sometimes the strut bounces around. So I've gotten in the habit of doing this. Once that extends, we should be good to go. Now we can take our stuff, throw it on the floor. That goes on first. The washer I just dropped, and this beveled edge goes down towards the strut, like that. Then there's this little cover, and then this guy on top of that. It's probably a good idea to also replace this nylock nut on the top. I just come up in through the bottom. When you install this, make sure you line up this little perch for the spring. Pretty easy with this spring compressor, right? When it starts to spin like that, I just add a little tension to it. That might have already knocked that washer loose. No, didn't. This strut takes a little more effort to compress. And if you're doing this, I recommend you do them in pairs, not just the one that's leaking. This washer, the beveled edge faces up, like this. And just take the strut, feed it up through. Before we get too far, liberally coat this. This is one of the bolts that's sticking around, so I want to make sure that I get it all coated up with some anti-seize before it goes in. Hopefully this won't happen again, but we'll see. Ready to install. I caught that. It's not quite lining up. Gonna need to pry it up into place. I think I'm gonna set both sides into place, fasten them up top, and then come down here and mess with them because they keep falling out. I'm hoping this is a better plan. The power of donuts compels you. That's the way to go. Big pry bar and your butt. I'm not going to run this all the way down just yet. I'm going to run it down snug, but then tighten it fully when the weight of the car is on it when it's on the ground. You want to do this so that you don't stress this bushing. If you tighten it when it's down like this, when it goes compressed, it's always going to be a little bit stressed, so try to avoid that. Well, that seemed harder than it needed to be. Let's just say if you have to do these rear struts and your parts are looking rusty, proceed with caution, extreme caution. Have a Sawzall handy, maybe a welder, a torch, a big pry bar. all kinds of stuff. It seems like it should be simple. There are 3 fasteners holding that whole thing together, is a whole thing in the car, let's put it that way. Why is it so hard? Anyway, corrosion. Rust never sleeps. I will put links in the description to, well, I'll put the part numbers if you didn't catch them during the video, tools, additional information, additional videos, stuff I've done to this car, if you're interested in that. Also a link to EricTheCarGuy.com if you have questions not covered in this video. Other than that, thank you so much for watching today. I hope you had fun. I had fun. The power of donuts compels you. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty. I'll see you next time.